Arthur, will you just look at those beautiful machines?
Aren't they pretty?
They're really good-looking machines. I mean, I only played the beta mostly of Destiny, which we're seeing now. The full thing. So I had that like
the
crummy,
busted hoopty.
Yeah, it was kind of a shitty whip. And you guys have obviously played enough to upgrade. You've won the game essentially because you've got some beautiful vessels here.
Almost. We're actually loading up the first mission on Mars. So that's the last set of environments in the game, supposedly.
Oh, really?
There might be one more after this. The game is sort of like alluding to it, but as far as I know, there's Earth, the Moon, Venus, and Mars.
Jupiter's like wicked far away, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a while since I've like been to school or paid any attention to space whatsoever, but
well,
I think
Mars is pretty far away too.
Sure, but like Jupiter, you get to Mars, and then it's like the distance that it took to get to Mars. You like multiply that by 1,000. There's an asteroid belt in there just to like mix up the scenery, and then let's talk about Destiny. Because you and Phil have been playing it. You're doing the review. There was no day one review. Right. I'm kind of surprised how like the gaming media has sort of like held the line and not like nobody's really rushed into it because they did not open up the servers for this game until yesterday, Monday.
So there are practical reasons for that. The first being, the servers opened at 5 a.m. Monday Pacific time, and from what I've played so far, I don't know if it's practically possible to have beaten the game as of last night at midnight when the, quote, review embargo lifted based on the paperwork we got.
Just because from the period of time between when the servers launched and, whatever the launch day would have been.
Yeah.
So the story's, I can assume, longer than 24 hours.
So the story is not. So here's the thing. You will need to grind missions to finish Destiny.
That's kind of built into it, right? Because there's those what's the word?
Strike missions and patrols?
Strike and patrols is what I was thinking of, where it just sort of drops you in the open world and you can find missions on the ground and complete those.
Right.
Which from what I've played in the final release, and I did a lot more of it in the beta. I didn't get the game early. I've only been playing it since this morning, but it seems like those are fairly formulaic. The patrol missions that you get in the open world environments.
They're boring fetch questy stuff, really.
Some of them
run
are,
around in the area primarily.
There are different types of them, and I dig some of the types. I really like the recon ones that task you with like reaching a certain point and like surviving at that point for a while, because it forces you to like go places in these big, pretty maps that you wouldn't normally go. But yeah, just like killing dudes and like getting their loots isn't especially inspiring.
I mean, so here's the thing, like going through those areas in Patrol, that might seem new, but once you get to the end of a planet, like you've seen all of that stuff.
Yes, because the missions will take you back over territories you've already been. That stuff I think is actually especially bad closer to the beginning of the game. Like the first and second missions, I think like basically take place in the same area. But Mars, this is you discovering a new planet. You've been on the planet for a minute now, and you're already blowing the heads off of things. So
right. Yeah.
Not especially diplomatic.
This is a additional faction. So there's a different faction introduced on every planet. Like a different faction owns every planet. Mm-hmm. And so this is a different faction. I'm trying to remember the name of them, but I can't. They use Roman.
The Cabal, I believe, isn't it?
Yes, that's it. The Cabal. They're like they have Roman naming conventions.
They
like
seem pretty goddamn annoying with those big old shields.
Actually, you know what? Phil and I were talking about it playing through, and the Cabal is maybe the most fun to fight out of anybody else. We were just sort of getting our bearings fighting against these guys. Like, I was trying to figure out where I could hit them to get their shields to go up. So you see there that like I've sort of cracked it.
Yeah.
You have to shoot their gun hand to get their shield to go up, which is not dissimilar from sort of the hunter dynamic in the Halo games.
Yeah, I feel it. Although the hunter had that great projectile weapon that essentially let you rocket jump, or rather, it would rocket throw you around the map.
Yeah, and I mean these guys are way easier to kill than that. And I actually appreciate that they don't jump around like some of the other enemies and force you to miss over and over again, especially as a hunter who uses sniper rifles a bunch. So they're more fun to fight until someone with a shield drops in, and those guys are really just a hassle
Yeah.
to kill.
What do you? So you're playing as a hunter. Phil is playing as a titan. It looks like.
Yes,
I'm just
that's
assuming his armor is big.
yeah, he's a titan.
I've been playing as a titan too, which I really dig the class breakdown, like
Right.
the mechanics sort of given to those classes, because they are not so distinct that it feels like you're playing like a different game, which is a very MMO idea. Like two classes in an MMO are so dissimilar that I don't know, just like the experience of playing the game is so wildly different. And I don't think
Right.
that's really true. I mean, you're killing things with guns and you're using your powers to.
You're using very similar weapons, and I think like we've sort of hit on the fact that the auto rifles are good all-purpose weapons for every class.
Yeah.
And here you'll see I'm supercharged, which means that I can use my special ability.
Your golden gun? Or do you have a different
Yeah,
one?
I have the golden gun. I actually just unlocked my other class. See, there's the golden gun. Something that I've learned is that if you knife fools, it doesn't count against your timer, or it doesn't count against how many shots
the
you
ammo
got.
that you get with the golden gun. That's interesting.
You got 3 shots with the golden gun.
Yeah.
Period.
But what I like about the class breakdown is that there are more subtle ways that your class informs how you play the game. There's a lot
Sure.
of positional stuff. There's a lot of like weapon types. There are very faint ways in which those are better for different classes. Like as a Titan, I prefer the shotgun just because I can take a little bit more damage, and my ultra charge power is based on the idea of me just like throwing my ass into a heap of monsters and then shooting my way out of it as fast as I can.
I've got to say, like, at this point, I think I'm level 14 and Phil's level 12. As we've gotten on later and later, like, that's the special move that he just did that you just saw there. It doesn't really seem like there's as much difference in the classes as they get higher level in the weapons that they take and their strategies. It's just, well, let's be far away if we can, because unless you're higher level than the enemies you're fighting, then you really need to keep your distance because you'll just get wrecked up close.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I've played enough, because the Titan subclass that you unlock at what, level 15?
15.
Is based on I think it's called the Guardian, like you or something like that. Like you get shields that you can deploy, and I'll be curious to see. I mean, obviously that's the kind of thing that I'm not going to know until I play a little bit more, but that seems more based on that class-centric gameplay of, oh, I'm the tank. I'm going to, attract aggro and take
it could
damage
be.
and shit.
I actually just unlocked my hunter subclass. I just hit level 15.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when you unlock that subclass, it's an entirely new, like, tree of skills that you have to level up from scratch.
It's weird that you unlock that late in the game, right? The cap is 20, right?
Yes, the level cap is 20. There are apparently items that you can get that allow you to raise your level, because we've saw like level 26 and 27 characters yesterday, which I assume were Activision or Bungie employees.
Well, they probably cheated then. Probably hacked it.
Well, I mean, this is what Bungie is saying, like, blah, 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 like, gear. And I haven't seen any of that gear yet, but also, like, we're still really early. And the thing that people on Twitter have been telling me repeatedly is that Bungie says the game doesn't really start until level 20.
Well, sure. I mean, that is the entire concept of an end game. Like that's MMO parlance all the way. And that, once you hit the level cap, the game's only just begun. That's
Right.
when the grinding, and I don't even think you can do raiding until level 20.
That may be. Most of the equipment at the tower isn't available to you. The Vanguard characters that you find that have your class-specific gear,
Sure.
you can't buy most of it until you're level 20.
And a lot of that stuff, especially the Crucible currency gear wow, that's a lot of dudes. The stuff that you get that you purchase with the points that you earn in the Crucible, some of that stuff requires you to play a lot of multiplayer matches.
Yeah,
So-
and I played some Crucible, and actually, if you're solo, Crucible is probably the fastest way to level up that I've found so far.
Oh, I don't doubt it. Yeah.
Because playing through the game by yourself. So here we saw another guy in the world, and I thought that I would invite him to our fire team to try to make it easier for us to get through the level.
Okay.
So That's that process. That's the only way you can add people that you don't know to your fire team. There's not like a really a way of recruiting people for specific missions. You just send them an invite and hope they accept.
Can't you look at them and click in the right thumbstick and invite them that way?
You can observe their character and send them an invite to your fire team, but there's no way to tell them like what you're doing shy of sending a very detailed message
Yeah.
about it.
Good day, sir.
Yeah. There's no like matchmaking or outposts where you can sort of like try to get other people that are playing the same mission that you are.
Now, but and that's for certain missions, but for Strike Force, doesn't that have matchmaking?
So for strike teams, you can't play unless you have 3 people.
Right.
So if you
it
try
does
to enter it, if you try to enter it without 3 people, then it will start looking for someone to put with you.
Yeah.
And the few strike missions that we've done so far, it's matched the other class with us.
Oh, fascinating.
So that we have like a equal or a evenly distributed class representation, which could be helpful. But again, we're at a sort of weird gray area in levels right now, I think, where everybody sort of plays similarly and they're not doing very different stuff. And also your class specific ability takes a really long time to recharge.
Yeah, I really think a lot of that sort of class specific strategy is going to come out when you hit the end game. I think that rating is probably where that stuff is going to matter the most, because from what I've seen from you guys playing and other people playing, like it's not especially super important in this stage of the game. It does. I mean, it feels cool. Like it feels nice to have this like feeling of. Can you shoot through the shields with the gold gun?
Nope.
Oh boy, don't waste it. It feels cool to like get this feeling of specialization. Like I love playing as the Titan class. I don't think I could play as anything else unless I played as a Titan class and got like super bored with it. But in terms of that MMO breakdown of like, okay, you tank, I'll heal. Like it's not really reflected at this point in the game quite yet.
So I'll be really curious to see how that stuff unfolds, because so far the strike missions that we played through are covering ground that we've played through in the campaign already. And then at one point there's like some space that's unlocked for that mission, and then there's a boss. And honestly, like the 2 bosses we played have been really weird and not particularly fun. And that was the Earth mission, the Earth Strike Force mission, and the Moon Strike Force mission.
What qualifies as a boss? Because obviously, like I've killed my share of wizards and devil walkers and shit.
Giant named enemy.
Okay.
Like we just fought one on the moon that was chained to the center of a room that takes up most of the screen.
Oh, tight.
Which is a cool idea, but the way you beat him is just by shooting him a lot for a really long time. So
Justin and I fought a Devil Walker in the beta
at
level cap, and that took like it was just the 2 of us, because I think we were in like a private part of the map. Like we didn't see anybody else the whole time we fought it, and no kidding, it probably took us about 20 minutes.
Yeah, and that's not unusual, and that's sort of not super fun. Like there's a moment of triumph at the end, but eventually like you've killed so many things that just killing one more isn't really doing it for me.
Yeah, I think that stuff is meant to be tackled by like stuff like the Devil Walkers is meant to be tackled by a platoon of people, because like there's stuff you have to consider, like shields, which will regenerate if you don't stay on them the whole time, which is way easier to maintain when you have more guns pointed at the problem.
Sure. The Devil Walker's actually in the Earth Strike Force mission.
Okay.
And he wasn't so much the problem, and actually in that regard he's an interesting enemy to fight, because the way you have to kill him is you have to shoot his legs.
Yeah.
And that knocks him down, and that opens up his core, which you shoot. But I don't know. The Strike Force missions are covering ground that the campaign already covers, and we haven't done any raids yet, so we'll have to see how those work out.
Talk to me a bit about the progression, because that seems like sort of the bread and butter of Destiny. It's the thing I think I'm enjoying the most. It's the thing that's making it most feel like I'm playing like old school Phantasy Star Online again. which I don't know if you know this about me. I foster a deep, deep love of Phantasy Star Online.
You and a lot of people. I've heard other people make that comparison.
Well, it's because I mean it's more about how the game is regimented. Like you have the central social hub where you do all your business, and then you go out on missions or exploration and grind and search for loot and shit. And there's a lot of loot, and this isn't true in a lot of games, but that loot looks like totally sick most of the time.
How far are you in? What level are you?
I'm only like level 7 or so. I'm like just now getting to the point where I was at the end of the beta. Like I said, I just got it this morning, so I don't know if you noticed, but Apple announced a new phone today. So
yeah, I may have heard something about it, and something about like a thing you wear. Around level 8, progression slows down considerably.
In what sense? In what sense?
As in, you level up more slowly than you did.
And I'm already leveling up way slower than I did in the beta. Like they jacked that shit way up.
Right. So the leveling is way slower, and you just don't find as much gear to the point where when you get green gear, which is like rare sort of magic quote gear, you can level up different elements of it, but we're not finding a whole lot of it, and it's really sort of a bummer to be stuck with the same weapons for a really long time and just feel them getting less effective.
Well, there are a lot of ways for you to purchase those weapons, right? You have the you have the identifiable. Oh God, I'll never remember the word that they call the things that you find in the world.
The glyphs.
No, I don't think that's it.
I know what you're talking. Engrams.
Engrams,
yeah. So yeah, you can find engrams, but first of all, you don't find them very often. Second of all, the stores don't sell a ton of gear, and most of it isn't better than what you'll find.
Yeah.
Or it'll be way higher level than you are, and by the time you get to that level, you've found something else.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it doesn't make sense, but
the rest of their gear is level 20.
Sure.
Which you can't buy unless you're level 20. So it's creating this sort of sense of, I wouldn't go so far as to say stagnation, but I just feel like I'm in the same place character-wise for longer than I would like.
And what's interesting is that we've seen like a lot of games of Destiny's ilk, if anything like that actually exists, but like MMOs and stuff like that, and games like Diablo, loot-centric games. I guess you could fold Borderlands into that as well.
I think that there's a very valid comparison to be made between Destiny and Borderlands, because they are two games that are trying to do very similar things.
But those types of games have learned to become like batshit crazy with how heavy-handed they get with like loot distribution.
Right, and I could see arguments against it, because I think that there's something to be said about loot feeling special.
Yeah, I mean, I whenever I find an uncommon item, like, it's exciting. Like, I dig into it and find out like how it can be upgraded when it levels up and all that. I love that system of like loot itself having its own leveling mechanic. It makes stuff feel really rich in the game.
There's a real sense of austerity to that stuff in Destiny, and I don't always think it's for the better. I think I've only found about 5 or 6 chests in the entire game so far, and none of the gold chests that are scattered around, so maybe we're just not looking hard enough.
Yeah, those things are really tucked away. A lot of them I've just found by running around, especially like every time I complete a mission. I guess you can take this as a pro tip. Not you, Arthur, but anybody who's watching this. Whenever you complete a mission, start running around like a crazy person, because there's going to be shit like a lot of the time in the area where you finish a mission that's just sort of tucked away there.
We just played a strike mission and finished it, and there was a chest in back, and I got Glimmer.
Oh, bummer. That's money.
Yeah. And
Zenny.
And there's not a lot to spend it on, honestly, except for cosmetic stuff. So the item economy is really weird and very limited, and it's really not interested in giving you stuff very often.
What about the class upgrade stuff? Like, do the powers and augments and stuff that you unlock as you level up, or are those a little bit more rewarding?
It depends. Like, some stuff is really cool. Like I think the sort of verticality and mobility that opens up once you unlock the double jump is like a pretty big deal, and is one of the few things about Destiny that feels a little different from its contemporaries, because that's not really something that you do in most shooters.
Yeah, it's
like
a
the double
shame.
jump.
It's a shame not playing as a warlock because I think they have the most interesting stuff of all in that department because they have their special double jump ability is like an actual hover
I
that
think
gives
the
them
Titan can do that too.
well, they have a jetpack that's more used to like get up real high so you can drop the goddamn
Oh,
hammer on
yeah,
people.
whereas,
But the
like-
hover just gives you like
Okay.
a stable horizontal like firing platform for your magic bombs.
Right. That's not something that the hunter gets. See, this right now, what we're watching is an example of the sort of boss philosophy of Destiny, and it's really.
Are you trying to shoot that bomb that was at his feet?
I was, and it didn't blow up. So this is just a guy that takes a shitload of bullets that we've been shooting at for about 5 minutes,
Yeah.
and it just stops being fun.
Give him that gold shit though. Oh!
Yeah, hitting with the golden gun though, it's a little satisfying.
But I mean,
So-
what else? What I get your point, but like for those mini bosses, like what else can they really do? I know that's not like a question for us to answer, but it just seems like, well, yeah, give them more health. Seems like the
I feel like
obvious
shooter bosses have cracked the being more than bullet sponges thing for a long time, actually. Like, and in that way, that's its own cliche, the figure out a trick and do it 3 times to beat a boss thing.
yeah.
But I also feel like that encourages a sense of discovery and experimentation that the bosses in Destiny generally aren't managing.
Yeah.
Because you're just shooting them, and you're taking turns shooting them to make sure that their shields don't go back up.
We don't have a lot of video left, but I did want to ask about sort of just the world exploration. Like my favorite thing about the beta was just like hopping on a hover bike, and I extolled the virtues of the hover bike animation to everybody who had listened to me.
It's a speeder bike.
It's a speeder bike, and it's just sick. The way that your legs like kick out when you take a sharp turn, like that shit is so dope. And I would do that for like 15 minutes, just like flying around an area I'd already been through before, like doing tight stunts and stuff. But I really liked
Right.
like exploring the world, and Mars actually looks like really neat. Like, is that something that's sort of pulling you through? Like, oh, I just made it to Venus. I can't wait to see what Venus looks like.
At first, but you wander around the same areas so much that it starts to lose some of that, and the strike missions will show you sections of the level you won't see anywhere else. But the need for exploration feels pretty minimal because, like I said, we've explored a fair bit and don't find very much for it except like empty caverns, and those caverns might be part of a later level unlock, but it's sort of hard to say. And I mean, again, we have not finished the game yet. We have not hit level 20, so by that definition, the game hasn't started for us.
Sure.
But
this is considerably further than we ever got in beta.
oh, sure, yeah, this is the final environment, ostensibly. Although I think that there might actually be one more.
Jupiter, baby, I'm telling you. We're going to go in that deep space.
There's, I don't want to spoil story stuff. Such as
Saturn?
it is.
Neptune?
The Cabal and Vex.
Cool. Well, thanks for showing it to me. And
Yeah.
I'm enjoying playing it. Like I enjoy a good progression hook. And for me, like I've gotten some of that. But again, like I really do think this is going to take more time to really know its true flavors.
Yep, it's going to be a while before the review goes up because we have a lot of stuff
Well, take
to go
your
through.
time. No rush.
Oh yeah, no.
I mean, we're losing millions of hits with each passing day,
That's-
but
thanks for the encouragement.
no rush. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye.
Bye.